All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. We are live, ready to go for our Pride celebration today. I want to thank everyone that is joining in. I see a couple of folks just hopping on right now. Please, please, please feel free to share this on your social media right now. We want to celebrate with as many people as possible. Send it to the community, send it to the allies, send it to your abuela, whoever you want to send it to. We are ready. So I am going to share my screen real quick, y'all. Give me 1 sec. We have a little PowerPoint slide. A ver. Ahí está. All right. Can y'all see my screen? Perfect. So again, welcome to our Pride and Progreso, celebrating queer LGBTQIA plus Latina Latinx business leaders. So my name is Enrique Guzman. I am the manager of social impact programs and membership with Prospanica. I am super, super excited to be here today. I want to welcome everyone. Again, like I mentioned a little bit ago, please share this webinar with as many folks as possible now that we are live. I want to, again, before we start, as always, I am a huge proponent of sharing a land statement and a land acknowledgement statement. Even though we are virtual, let's have a moment to reflect. So I want to thank you for pausing to honor the ancestral grounds and supporting the resilience, strength, history, and traditions of the indigenous peoples worldwide. I have here a little resource for y'all. So if you want to grab your phones and take a snapshot of the QR code, you definitely can. Super excited, but it's native-land.ca. I am going to turn it over to our amazing host, Kat Lasso. Really, really excited to have her today. Let's give her a round of applause. Send those emojis all over. Yes. So Kat, I will turn it over to you and yeah, let you introduce yourself.
No, pues, thank you so much. I'm so excited. Thank you everyone for joining. Honestly, this is such an honor. I won't give you my age, but I will say that in the last year, I actually fully came out to my parents and my extended family. So this is quite a big honor. You know, today we are having a personal, semi-personal. I know there's a bunch of people in the room. I feel like it's going to be personal conversation around business professionals and our identities, you know, as one during this month. It shouldn't just be limited to this month, year round, of course. For those of you who don't know, I'm Kat Lasso. Professionally, I am a documentary producer, also have worked thoroughly in digital startups. Currently, I'm lead of content production for Project Pulso. Go check us out. On top of that, the last project that I worked on, lengthy project, is called De la Calle, a docu-series hosted by journalist Nick Barilli, 8 parts, really exploring Latin America and the Caribbean, the sounds and music that have originated from that land. So make sure to check it out on Paramount Plus. But honestly, enough about me. I feel like I want to pass it over to our beautiful panelists who are joining us here today. We'll go by one. I would love to hear from you all, your pronouns. Some of us have MBAs, some of us don't, but that doesn't matter. But shout it out if you if you do. Let's start with Amanda.
Let me go ahead and unmute here. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much, Kat. Buenas tardes a todos. Such a pleasure to be here and to share a space with Kat, Victor, Manny, and Enrique, and with you all. My name is Amanda Tovar. I'm a cis lesbian woman, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. I was born and raised in the greater Los Angeles area. I'm a daughter of a first-generation father and a second-generation mother. I'm the oldest of 3 siblings. I have 2 younger brothers, and I am 7 months into my journey with Prospanica as Chief Operating Officer. It has been a beautiful journey so far. I've spent a total of 8 years in the nonprofit industry, and I hold my Latinx community very dear to my heart. I'm really excited, and I'm really looking forward to sharing my personal experience here with you all. Gracias.
Thank you, Amanda. You know what? There's someone here named Victor, but I don't know. Victor, do I know you? You look familiar.
We might know each other, Kat. If anything, we've known each other from being a part of the Prospanica family. And the reason why you might not recognize me right away is because I am wearing an avatar. I decided to make sure that the place was a safe place to be myself as I am, not as others want me to be. And so if this is the place where I can be myself, I'll be most happy to show up.
Absolutely. I hope we are creating a safe space for you to be exactly who you are. So, oh, there we are. There's Victor.
All right. Well, good evening, everyone. It's awesome to be here with all of you. I know that time is the most precious value that we have. And we certainly have made the decision to spend this quality time with each other tonight. I'm excited about sharing my story. And Kat, you were right, personal conversations. But the reality is, I will add to that, there are courageous conversations from the heart. Again, my name is Victor Gonzalez Galeano. I'm a man who identifies himself as a gay man. My pronouns are him, his, L. Originally from Colombia. One of the main reasons I came to the United States 40 years ago was because I wanted to be in an environment where I could be myself, because back in the day, that wasn't necessarily the case in my native country, Colombia. I spent most of my corporate America career in retail banking, from teller to district manager. The highlight of my career was as a district manager for Bank of America during the Bank of America Fleet Bank merger in Boston. And that introduced me to my Prospanica family, volunteer since the early 2000s as president of South Florida and EVP of Boston, and now sitting on the board for Orlando. Excited to be here. Thank you for the opportunity, and looking forward to engaging in conversation.
All right, Manny, I don't know if you can follow that up. We had a lot of theatrics.
I love it. I was wondering where we were going with that. So glad to see that it was all about creating a safe space, and I do welcome that. My name is Manny Velasquez, pronouns he, him, él. I like to say that my tagline is I'm a triple threat. I am Latino, I am gay, and I am educated. I do have an MBA. I've been with Prospanica since 2008. I used to be the VP of marketing for the New York chapter. Then I became the EVP for New York chapter. Then I became the president for New York chapter. And then I decided to move to Florida, where I was given the opportunity to lead our LGBTQ center at the University of North Florida. I was a director there. But of course, if you've been following what's been happening with the politics in Florida, diversity, equity, and inclusion is now considered a 4-letter word in the state of Florida. So therefore, we actually had to close our doors back in April, the end of April. So I had the opportunity to move to another department. So thankfully was not unemployed. I was allowed to switch departments, and I am now the director of career education, still for the university, working in career services. But I also spend a lot of my time with a lot of the LGBTQ nonprofits here in Jacksonville, Florida, where I live. I am on the executive board for Jax River City Pride, so we're in charge of creating all the Pride events. In addition to that, I also work very closely as part of the steering committee for Equality Florida. I am on the scholarship committee for PFLAG, as well as other organizations that I am leading as well. So very heavily involved within the community, even though our governor doesn't seem to like LGBTQIA plus individuals, I am still fighting for all of us.
Yeah, you got
You
one
know,
more in Central Florida.
you know what? I really love, Manny, that you brought up education because truly, in my eyes, furthering our education is such a privilege. You know, I come from a background where my mother couldn't find higher education. My mom is from Bogota, Colombia. So, Victor, I see you. And my father is from Lima, Peru. And if I were to go to Peru right now, you know, I wouldn't feel safe to hold the hand of my girlfriend to be publicly out, just given the way that the government has treated queer LGBTQIA folks. But on the topic of a privilege like education, Manny, I would love to ask you what motivated you to specifically pursue an MBA?
So before I answer the question, I'm going to also mention the fact that I am from Peru. Um,
Look at that. Both of my sides are here. Amanda,
exactly.
by the way, well, you know, so we've got, listen, basically, we curated this entire panel based on my identities here. We've got Colombia, we've got Peru, we've got a woman. There we go.
Yeah,
Right
and
on. And we have a little bit of Mexican in here too, so.
love
Hey.
it, love it. That's all that it matters, that we're all together. I would really love to give you a very inspirational story as to why I decided to get an MBA, but the bottom line of it is that I'm a mama's boy. And what I mean by that is, so I've always been a mama's boy. My mom passed away in 2003, and I'm still a mama's boy. So when she passed away in 2003, I decided to leave Florida because I was living in Florida at the time, never returning back to Florida. Little did I know that I would be 20 some odd years later, right? But I left Florida and I moved to the Big Apple, New York City, where it took me a few years to kind of start healing from that process of losing my mother. And one day I was in a subway heading somewhere, and I look up and there is an advertisement for an open house for future MBA students for one of the local universities in New York City. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. An MBA, I'm never going back to school. And then I look at the date when they're having this open house, and it happened to be September 5th, which is my mother's birthday. So I took that as a sign that that is where I needed to be. So I went to get the information. As I tell people, I went in to get info and I came out with an invoice because basically during the time that I was sitting there, I decided that that is where I wanted to go because it had spoken to me in so many different levels. And it was something that I wanted to do for myself. It was something that I didn't necessarily needed it for my job. I had a really great job working for Lincoln Center for the Performing Arts at the time in the marketing department. And I actually thought that it wasn't something that I needed to do to enhance my career. I was doing exactly what I wanted to do. I was in the role that I was intended to be doing, and I was very satisfied with that. So for me, pursuing my MBA was something that was very, very personal. Little did I know that it would actually end up helping me a lot because in 2009, 2010, when the economy exploded, I had just graduated with my MBA program, as a matter of fact, and Lincoln Center decided to let go of 350 of us on that day because they couldn't afford us anymore. So that kind of put me in a situation where I had to go out and looking for work. And if it hadn't been for my MBA, I don't think I would have been able to really bounce back on my feet during that time because it was a very difficult time. If we, some people may recall that time, but it was very difficult to get a job during that time. So I think it allowed me to be able to overcome something that would have been very detrimental to me.
Amanda, Victor, you remember when Manny said that he wasn't going to say anything inspirational? Now we know that he's also a liar. Okay, triple threat and add liar to that.
And a liar.
Amanda, I would love to hear your perspective, your opinions, your experience on specifically being an out lesbian, specifically in your field.
Yeah, this is a great opening for me, Kat. And you mentioned something, at the beginning of this. 5 years ago, this question wouldn't have been applicable to me. I was so focused on trying to fit into what I thought others expected of me. And I really kept my true self hidden. I went along with people's assumptions about my identity, and I was really afraid to break that mold. Today, this question, it strikes a chord, and Kat, I hope that you've had the same experience. Personally, being proud to be a queer professional means living authentically without shame, and really embracing who I am at my core, right? It's growing up in a Hispanic household, being the only daughter, you carry this weight of feeling like you need to marry a man, and you're gonna go on, and all of those things. And it was a struggle for me, but today it means that I no longer feel the need to really hide or to conform to someone else's expectations, because I can still live authentically, be happy, and make those that really love me happy around me. And so there's a really strong sense of peace that has come with that for me. It was, in my experience, it was something that was very heavy, and it's been a true weight lifted off my shoulders. Professionally, it's meant so much. It's meant so much more to me. It's empowered me to be resilient. I've faced challenges and biases because of my identity, but I really use those experiences to grow stronger and to be more determined in helping my community and serving my community, not just as a Latina, but as a queer Latina. It's given me an opportunity to really build community and a really, really strong network with people that I feel really support me. But most importantly, it has really allowed me to mentor others and, and really guiding them and supporting, younger and less experienced LGBTQ professionals in their journeys and navigating not just their professional journeys, but their identities as well. And so it gives me an opportunity to really lead with the purpose, specifically with Prospanica. It allows me to drive positive change and really foster for a more inclusive environment for everyone. And so
Amanda, thank you so much for sharing that. I knew that this was going to get personal, obviously. It really resonates with me. I think as a woman, there are specific microaggressions I know that I have felt while working on the field as a producer, just as a woman. And then when people find out that I'm bi, that I have a girlfriend, the hypersexualization is through the roof, or not taking me seriously as a professional goes down really fast. So I absolutely understand your perspective. And I really appreciate you looking to mentor others, because I wish that I had someone who could speak to my experiences that I could have looked up to when I was younger. It would have made the process a lot easier. So thank you so much. Victor, we're talking about some of these nuances, right? Some of these very specific nuances that we experience with the intersection of our identities. Could you speak to being openly out while in your profession as well?
Absolutely. So I'm going to go back a few years so I can talk about how my experience was in corporate America, specifically in banking, which is where I spend my time. And speaking about losing identity, coming from Colombia into the United States and wanted to embrace the culture the language, the ways of the land, got lost, and I sort of moved toward the American way and left the Latino way behind. So I'll take this opportunity to say thank you to Prospanica, because they introduced me to professional Latinos that I wanted to hang out with, that had dreams and aspirations, that wanted to educate themselves. And so that inspired me and rekindled that light of the Latino life, which, being Latino with an accent and gay in corporate America back in the 90s was not necessarily the one thing to be. And so I struggled with it. And although I didn't have a sign that said, "Hi, I'm Victor and I am gay," right? I wanted to be who I was. I strived to make sure that I was being authentic on a consistent basis. Back in the day, we couldn't marry, right? We're celebrating, I think it's today, where we can get married in the United States, right? Back in the 90s, we could not do that. And so, ironically enough, most of my Prospanica family know me as Victor Scapicchio. And the reason why that happened is because when I became a U.S. citizen, you have the opportunity to change your name if you want to. Well, I took my then life partner's last name. And so I was Victor Scapicchio for a greater reason, because I didn't want the system to tell me who I wanted to be. I took the opportunity to say, I am having my life partner's last name, whether you give me permission to marry or not. And so can you imagine what that created in corporate America when one day I showed up as Victor Scapicchio, and who the heck is this? And that is your boyfriend then. So speaking of those microaggressions, and speaking of all those non loving behaviors, then resulted from clients and employees and individuals in the community. But then I was determined to be myself for who I was, not who others wanted me to be. And ever since, regardless of the opportunity that I had to work in an organization, or how I do it now in my own organization, I want to make sure that I introduce myself as the person who I am, not who others want me to be. I often speak about that, so I take the opportunity to volunteer in other organizations where I can come in with my intellectual capital, which is what they're looking for, without any nonsense biases. I gratefully appreciate the work that I do with Start Out, is that non-for-profit organization that helps LGBTQ solo and entrepreneurs to help us grow and succeed. So I encourage you to check it out. Nonetheless, Amanda said it best. At the end of the day, it's how can we live authentically, and how can we impact someone's life, whether it's 1 or 1,000. We can save one life if we can encourage somebody to live authentically and not to have the fear of the judge and others to come out against them. Then we've done our job.
What a really profound and powerful story about being intentional about these choices, right? The choice of you taking your life partner's last name, and the statement that makes in the public. Thank you, Victor. Manny, speaking about being intentional of the choices that we make and the impact of language, I feel like for many, maybe I'm talking about my mother, an MBA is a big deal. Okay, if she had it her way, I would have gotten all these degrees and whatnot. But here I am, a starving artist. I wanted to inquire, Manny, about your experience perhaps back in the day when you first were getting your MBA, what that was like, being openly queer while on campus. What was that environment like for you while you were getting your MBA?
So I was very lucky because I was in New York City, which is a very accepting place. We've got many laws in New York State that protect LGBTQIA plus individuals. So for me, it was an easy transition. I also had an amazing network with Prospanica. At the time, it was NASHIMBA, the National Society of Hispanic MBAs. So I still call it NASHIMBA every so often. So if you hear that from me, it's just because I'm an old timer. But yeah, I had a great network with Prospanica. They obviously knew that I was a queer man. They had no issues with it whatsoever. They allowed me to do anything that I wanted to do. As a matter of fact, I remember even having meetups during the conferences that we do on a yearly basis of different LGBTQIA plus folks within the conference itself. So that's something that we started doing way back in the day as well. So luckily for me, it was a great experience. However, seeing it now, because I do work in higher education in the state of Florida, as a gay man, and seeing what that means to my incoming students, I can see how belonging is a big part of our mental health, right? Because if we don't feel like we belong in a place, then that's just damaging our mental health in the end. So it's a very difficult spot for me to be in because we no longer have the LGBTQ Center, which was that safe space for students. So one of the things that I'm doing now is I've become the advisor for Pride Club, which is our student-led LGBTQ organization. I'm also the advisor for our gender inclusive housing on campus. So there are different ways that we can try to assist those current MBA students or current students in general who are going through the process, because our university in 2022, we were the only university in the state of Florida to be included among the top 40 best of the best for LGBTQ plus inclusion. And that was because of all the hard work that my team and I did to get to that point. And then in 2023, we were kicked out, not because of anything wrong that we did, but because of the laws in the state. So a lot of our students who were coming to the university specifically to find that safe haven no longer had it. So I've had to try to figure out ways to still provide those resources and still provide that safe space for my students. And that is something that I will continue doing.
I feel like oftentimes when Pride is here and we're reading all these articles or these events are happening, oftentimes they focus a lot on the negative aspect. Yes, there's so much validity in focusing on legislation that needs to change, making sure that we get the justice that we deserve, that we can live full autonomous lives. But there is so much positivity that is often overshadowed by that. And Manny, I think what you're pointing out to me is really the beauty of community. I think as queer people, as LGBTQIA plus people, as a result of being marginalized by the greater community, it forces us to be like really good at making community. And on top of it, if we're Latina, if we're Latino, if we're Latine, forget it. We got community on lock. That's something that we specialize in. Amanda, I wanted to continue focusing on the positivity here. And I wanted to ask you if you could share maybe some instances or examples of how your identity has positively influenced the work that you do, whether that's in your interactions and how you build within your company.
Yeah, thank you for the question, Kat. And I wanna echo what Manny said. There's there's mental strain that can come from someone not feeling like they belong somewhere, right? And so in my experience, it's been uber important for me to really foster a diverse environment where, you know, it's actively encouraged and valued to listen to all different aspects and opinions, and, you know, not just when it comes to the LGBTQ community, but, you know, people identify as many different things, right? And so really creating an inclusive environment where difficult conversations can be had, but giving them a space to have a voice at the table, regardless of what their walks of life are. You know, Manny, there's a lot of value that comes to holding an MBA, right? But it doesn't undervalue those that don't come with an MBA, right? And so really making sure that we are fostering an environment where everybody has a voice, not just because you are ranked at a certain place in your career or your life, that you are given other opportunities or a voice. So those things have really, really kind of opened my eyes to certain things. You know, secondly, while I identify as a queer woman, it's also sometimes expected that I understand all the ins and outs of the community that I identify with. But I acknowledge that I am not a subject matter expert in everything, you know, and the wide range of you know, all the identities that come with being part of the LGBTQ community. So I really rely heavily on my team. Enrique, who has brought in his short time with the organization, has brought a lot of great insight. I lean on my team a lot when it comes to areas that I recognize that I may be biased in, that I may not know the ins and outs of, right? So I really try and take a step back when I know that I am not well versed in something, and I really take the opportunity to learn. And so these experiences, I think, have really enriched workplaces, not just at Prospanica. You know, I'm new to the team, but again, you know, those things are really important to me. And like I said, just really stating that I don't always have the answers, and that I'm going to be open to hearing other perspectives, because those things are really important within a team.
That is beyond powerful and very much needed, I think, for someone to actually know themselves well enough and have enough courage to actually say, I don't know, but I'm willing to listen. So that's really beautiful, Amanda. Manny and Victor, I would love to hear your insight on maybe how companies, how business schools can better support queer Latine professionals and students. Any advice?
Manny is probably the expert and can speak a great deal from all the work that he's done. I'll let you end the conversation, but I'll start with the very one reason we're here: education. Prospanica is formed with the whole purpose of helping Latinos get to that MBA, right? And then give them the opportunity to have a seat at the professional table. And so at the end of the day, human beings are challenged with difference, not understanding why someone is the way he or she is. And if we get the opportunity to understand thyself, understand the reasons why, understand our own biases, then we can eliminate the negative behaviors, the microaggressions that we get either at home, at work, or in our communities. Because it's a lack of understanding that at the end of the day, regardless, we're still human beings. We have been given the gift of life. Who has given anyone else the authority to tell us that we do not belong? Who gave him that authority? And what makes him or her think so? No, we are here as gifted human beings. And so, regardless, we can even take this black, white, yellow, Latino, we can put any other labels that we want. But at the end of the day, we can start with education. A lot of strides have been made. A lot still needs to be done to truly understand the gift of life as a human being and the beauty that each and every one of us, and the gift that each and every one of us has to give to others. So why will somebody want to dim the light in each and every one of us? Who gave him that authority? No one. And so it all starts with all of us, not just the companies, leadership. No, all of us have to come out. We cannot hide in the closet. It's not a joke. We cannot hide because the more we hide, the more they don't know about us existing. We live here. We've been given the gift of living. Let's live life fully by showing ourselves for who we are. I think all this one is education, education, education.
I'm
I-
sorry, Victor. I didn't hear that. What'd you say?
Exactly. Exactly. EDUCACTION. Education. Dígame la educación, por favor, Dios mío.
Yeah, I have to definitely echo what Victor said. It starts with education, right? This is great that we're doing this presentation. I love that Prospanica has been doing something for Pride Month for a few years now. And the one thing that I would encourage, obviously, is to just say that it should not just happen during Pride Month, right? Because those of us who are part of the LGBTQIA plus community, we are queer 365 days of the year or 366 in a leap year because we don't take a day off. So what companies and schools need to do is they need to understand that through educating the workforce, it not only affects the employees that they are educating, but it affects potential employees as well. In addition to all of the family members who belong to those employees, because, for example, I know that it is very difficult now for anyone to be able to bring good people who work in diversity, especially here in Florida, because they do not have the laws to protect them, right? So you're not only affecting the potential employee, but you're affecting the entire family as a whole, which then impacts the entire community. So by us being able to provide resources, educational resources, providing safe spaces, making sure that people feel that they are part of a community, whatever that community looks like, right? But having those little steps, you're actually creating that sense of belonging for an individual, which will hopefully then, regardless of what's happening in the state level, they will feel like that is a good place that they can be at, whether it's at work or whether it's a school, because they've got a little bubble that at least kind of protects them from everything else that is happening on the outside world.
If I could jump in here, yes, I want to echo what everyone is saying, that yes, there is an importance of education. And I think that what we're talking about here is like companies, businesses, institutions need to acknowledge the systemic barriers that are also in place for many people like us and other people who are not on this panel. So if we value education and we acknowledge that this is a way to further our communities, we have to also take inventory on systemically what is in the way for us to actually get there. Those things are housing, those things are, maybe it's language barrier, right? Making sure that we have diversity when it comes to pamphlets or school books and whatnot. But yes, Amanda, I wanted to move on to you. It seems to me from everything you've been sharing that you are quite focused on essentially being like a mentor, right? to other professionals, and I wanted to know if you could share some tips, some things that you specifically do to essentially pass the baton, how you're actually specifically advocating for fellow queer Latine business professionals. Oop, you're muted.
I know, I realized that. Kat, you hit the nail on the head when you mentioned making sure that we are educated in making sure that we're staying informed about the issues that are affecting the communities around us, right? And understanding how we can positively contribute to those advocacy efforts. It may seem like a long shot, right? The bigger scale, things that are going on in this world, but there's things that we can do in our own communities, right? Working with the kids of our communities, going out and just telling your story is really powerful, right? And you mentioned it, serving as a mentor, offering guidance to those that are navigating really the intersection of their professional careers and their personal identities. I'd really like to be able to provide the support and advice that I wish I had earlier in my career. And what that means is, sometimes it's you just had a bad day, right? And sometimes having a bad day in your personal life and not being able to share it because you're worried about what everybody else is going to think, right? About what's going on in your life and all of those things, that it can be really difficult. So having someone to lean on is really what I aspire to be to people, and being able to navigate those tough conversations, because sometimes it's just like you said, a lack of education and not really understanding. Lastly, I want to continue to listening to the needs of the individuals within the community. Being a listening ear goes way further than being the talker, right? So being an active listener, and how I can advocate and how I can support small scale, big scale. I'm really dedicated to making a meaningful impact, however I can, whether it's one person or 100 people, right? It's whatever you can do to make a difference in someone's life.
And listen, I just met you, Amanda, but I can tell you doing it. You're giving me goosebumps. I can tell you're doing it. And I hope that you continue doing the work that you're doing, not only professionally, but also outside of the workplace. Y'all, the time is coming. It's close. It's close. So before we leave, I wanted to ask each of you just some last words of advice. Maybe there's someone who's watching right now, someone who's going to watch later, who either has a lot of apprehension around furthering their education. It's too hard. I'm scared. I don't know anybody else who's doing this. Maybe they're also dealing with, they're not out. They also don't know anybody who's out. Maybe they're in a state where they feel alone. What words of advice do you have for these individuals? Whoever wants to go first.
I'll go first, I guess. What I would say is to remember that you cannot have psychological safety without inclusion. I will repeat that. You cannot have psychological safety without inclusion. What that means is that you have to be able to be a part of something. You have to be able to feel like you belong in order for you to feel mentally 100% there, right? So if that means getting involved, going to City Hall and speaking on behalf of LGBTQIA plus issues, going to school boards and showing up, going out and canvassing people for voting, like anything that you could possibly do to be as involved as you can to try to change from within, because we cannot expect things to change on their own. We have to take the bull by the horns and do it ourselves. And we have to be able to do it with our allies, because everything that we have been able to accomplish is because of the allies that we have had that have been able to take us to where we need to be. So depend on those allies, depend on that community building, and do it from the ground up. And that's a change. That's how you can start changing things in your own backyard.
My advice, I'll go, is it's very simple. You know, yes, there's so much work to be done, as Manny said, right? Advocating for inclusive policies and all of those things, super important. But I think at least for me, where it started and where it ends is the love and the acceptance that we show to others, right? I want to remind everyone to be kind to people and spread love all around you. You know, that's really the biggest gift that you can give to someone, right? And not assuming, giving someone, you know, an ear when they need it and a shoulder when they need it, helping them navigate those tough situations. We're all human. We all have experiences. We all have our hardships. But it all starts with, you know, being human. And so that is, again, lots of work to be done, but remember that we're all human, and we all want to be loved, and we all want to love.
If we just remember that we're all human, we'll be just fine. We can just leave everything else behind. But Kate, to your point around those that may be still afraid of coming out and with the fear of what others will say, how the world will end in front of us because of who they are and not understanding, the reality is that they're not alone. So I just checked, and as of right now, there's 8.08 billion of us on planet Earth, right? And so it's as big as that number is, sometimes we forget and we think that we have to solve everything on our own, in our own terms, and that's not necessarily the case. The gift that I've been given of coaching others has taught me a great deal about the need that all of us have to voice our own selves. So give yourself the opportunity to voice yourself through the mentors in Amanda, through the educators in Manny, through all of us who are willing and able and wanting to love unconditionally, regardless of who you identify yourself as. Just remember, you're not alone, and it's okay. And this, I'll reach out specifically to the men in our Latino communities who have been domesticated by our macho padres and to be a man. So the fact that you can be a man, you still can be a gay man and still be honorable and loving and kind and compassionate and gentle. Those we don't lose because we happen to be gay.
Wepa. I couldn't have said it better myself. I echo what everyone has said. And I also want to add that, you know, the theme here is also education. Not only will educating yourself about how you, as maybe a Latina, a Latino, a Latine, we have always, queerness has always been part of our culture. From the Mushe to Sylvia Rivera, who was also very, very important to the start of Pride. You know, it is really, really to our benefit to dig deep into our histories, because if you dig deep enough, you will see yourself. And for me, that has always empowered me, right? It has told me that I didn't just start today. You know, I come from a legacy of women before me, of queer people before me who had to pave the road in order for me to stand bravely and be out and open. Y'all, thank you so much for your time. but in particular for your stories, for your vulnerability. Thank you to Prospanica for organizing this. For those of you who are watching, we've been talking about the importance of seeing yourself reflected. And so as a reminder, I'm Kat Lasso. I'm bi, I'm poly, I'm Colombian, I'm Peruvian, I'm a New Yorker. And yes, thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Kat, and to our amazing, amazing panelists. I want to give a virtual round of applause to everyone here today. Thank you for your time. This has been truly inspirational. I have loved hearing from each and every one of you. Just a quick closing. Thank you to our viewers as well for being here today. I know that there was a little bit of a Wi-Fi issue on my end, so I apologize. But today I heard a lot about love. I heard a lot about resilience. I heard a tremendous amount about acceptance and belonging, which has been amazing. This has been my first webinar out of many, many to come. And I invite y'all to become a member of Prospanica. And as a member, you will be able to have access to programs such as this. But we have definitely a lot of networking, job fairs with our amazing recruiters. We have a conference and career expo coming up. So here I will leave up this slide for a few minutes, so you all can use the QR codes if you are interested in learning more. But once again, I want to thank Kat Lasso for her time. Amanda, Victor, Manny, thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate you all. Let's continue growing, y'all. Let's continue being amazing. Saludos, everyone. Take care.
Bye.
Bye,
Bye.
everybody.
Thank you,
Gracias.
everyone. Gracias. Bye-bye.
Gracias.